أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. Some sisters are saying I sound quite faint to them. Is that for everyone? Or is it okay for, can someone else? Farah?
It's okay for me. I can hear you clearly.
Okay. I guess for anyone else, if you could put up your volume. Your volume. Although I do get quite excited and I get a bit loud, so you might be turning it down as well. But I hope that you're able to hear me, inshallah. But I think it's okay on my end. So I'm just going to start with the PowerPoint, sisters. Let me just bring that up. And I thank you for joining me today. So what I was wanting to cover is actually how we are going through Ramadan. We plan for Ramadan to have our best Ramadan yet. We made those changes, so that we could be the best we could be, in Ramadan, attain the greatest reward that we can obtain, and, make the most of it. And yes, it doesn't go according to plan. You're not alone. However, we planned, as much as we did for it to be our best Ramadan. And then what we did was, now that we've gone through it, we're probably focusing on Eid. And as you do, and then the tiredness sets in, what happens is we forget often to do the reflection, to take the lessons that we've gained from Ramadan. What did we learn, and how do we take some of those lessons and move forward? And, in creating not just the best Ramadan, but actually Ramadan being like the start of your year, like your New Year's resolution, and that being how you want to maintain and grow throughout the rest of the year. Now, it's not always possible to worship Allah the way that we do in Ramadan, of course. However, we can take some lessons, and we can definitely, I can't hide this. Let me hide this. There we go. We can definitely take some amazing lessons and make some amazing steps forward. But for that to happen, we've got to do some reflection. Now, before we go on to creating our best life, what's really important and our best year ever is actually to align ourselves with the Quran and Sunnah. Like, we could all make up an amazing life, right? And unless that aligns with the Quran and Sunnah, we don't know actually if it's going to be beneficial for us, or whether we're, we've got to always bring that into account. So I thought, before I start with the workshop, the first half, what I wanted to do is actually take some life lessons. So we're wanting to create our best life. So to actually, that's gone backwards, to take some life lessons from Surah Fatihah. And how Allah guides us to live our best life. Now, why Surah Fatihah? Because that covers the central themes of the Quran, and it teaches us how to have our best life just in those short ayahs. We're reading it constantly. I want to give you new meaning to these ayahs that you're reading at least 17 times a day, and not more, and more in Ramadan. And how Allah is telling us how to live our best life. So before we go on to creating that, I first want to go over the guidance. Bismillah. So, move forward. Thank you. Step 1. Okay, first ayah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Connect with Allah in everything we do, because the Bismillah helps us to connect. You see, we've been created, sisters, for connection with Allah. We have a need for Allah, right? Like, when we're not connected to Allah, we don't feel right. We know something is wrong. And so we have this desperate need. We have been created for this desperate need to be connected to Allah. And when we're not connected to Allah, you find that we're always seeking, we're seeking something. We're seeking connection with people, we're seeking connection through, kind of satisfying, this goal and this and this and this. But really, what it really comes down to is you have been created for connection with Allah. You have a need to be connected to Allah. If you are not connected to Allah, things seem odd and off, right? And the Basmala is the easiest way to connect with Allah. Even in Ramadan, when we have tried to attain taqwa, which is the purpose of Ramadan, we're increasing our awareness of Allah. We're constantly trying to connect what we're doing with Allah and for Allah. So this connection with Allah in everything we do, even in this life that we want to create now moving forward, it has to be in recognition that we have to connect with Allah in everything we do. Now, not only that, how amazing that then Allah shares with us his most beautiful names, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. And you know what's amazing? That even if you did forget to connect with Allah, by his mercy, you can still come back to him. Look at that. Connect with Allah in everything you do. And if you forget, by his mercy, come back. Because this is what we do. As insan, we forget to connect with Allah. We often forget to say Bismillah for eating or dressing or, all of the acts that we're taking. We forget. We're going to sleep. We forget that we could make intention, to connect with Allah and for our sleep to be rewardable. We forget. We forget when we're cooking for our family to connect with Allah so that we are rewarded. So connection with Allah is key. And even then, if your children didn't appreciate the food you made, when you connect with Allah first, you know that you're still being rewarded and it won't affect you in the same way. So connect with Allah in everything we do. Number one, life lesson number one. And we're going backwards again. Sorry, sisters, I didn't sleep last night and my 2-year-old got up at 8 a.m. So I'm pretty tired. Anyway, Bismillah, Allah make it easy for us. Step 2, gratitude. The second ayah. After connecting with Allah, when Allah reminds us, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. All praise is due for Allah, Lord of the world. Now, what is Allah telling us here? That gratitude is the key to our well-being, our happiness, our stability. So if we're planning a life, a good life forward, we've got to start with gratitude. Be grateful for what you have already now. Because if you are grateful, then that means we're going to be in the best place to create that happy life we want to create, to be in our element, to be the best we can be, and to be feeling very stable in our life. And that's when we can be consistent, right? When we're feeling stable. So gratitude is the place where all of that comes from, right? We're connecting with Allah and we're being grateful. We're thinking about Allah in a good way. We're being grateful. Now, here's the thing, sisters. To be truly grateful, we have to accept what isn't and who we are. Now, this is where we struggle with gratitude. Like, it seems easy enough to say be grateful, but often we struggle with gratitude because we can't accept what is or what isn't. It should be like this. It should be like that. Why isn't it like that? Why did this happen? And those sort of thoughts, they take away your gratitude. The second thing that we struggle with is accepting who we are. Now, you'll know when we do the reflection in a moment, how when we're looking at, okay, where are we? Who are we? Most of those goals of where you want to get to are off the back of you not even accepting who you are. We're not even grateful for where we are right now. We're not happy with where we are. We're always wanting to be somewhere else, often. Or something else has to change. Someone else has to change. This has to happen. That has to happen. And so when we struggle with accepting, what is and who we are, that's when you'll struggle with gratitude. So if you want to create your optimal life, number one, accept what is and what isn't. Accept it. It's not going to be any other way right now. It is what it is today. And accept who you are. We're so hard on ourselves. We beat ourselves up so much. Nobody is harsher to us than we are to ourselves. We can, most people struggle with this so much, just accepting who we are. So if you want to have the best life ever, you want to do it from the mindset of, number one, connect what you do with Allah. Number two, do it from a place of being grateful. Moving on. Being merciful. Okay? Because the third ayah is Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. Again, we covered this, but here's where this is really important, sisters. Mercy is key to returning to Allah no matter what we have done. We're all going to make mistakes. We're all going to sin. But Allah is reminding you here, it doesn't matter what you've done. Come back to me. He is Ar-Rahman, He is Ar-Rahim. So this is one thing that holds us from coming back to Allah, from living our best life we can, because actually we feel that we can't even go before Allah. We feel, that we're such big sinners that holds us back. Whereas actually Allah is telling you, He is the most merciful. He is Ar-Rahman, He is Ar-Rahim. So come back, no matter what. And here's the second thing that we struggle with mercy. The biggest problem that we have is that we are not merciful to ourselves. Like, we want the mercy of Allah, yes. But are we merciful to ourselves? Sometimes we want to be more gentle with our children, less harsh. But are we, are we starting with ourselves? Are we starting with being gentle to ourselves? And it starts with ourselves, because if you're merciful to yourself, not only will Allah be merciful with you, but you will be merciful in all your relationships. The mercy has to start with you. So wherever you're creating your best life from, you do it from a place of gratitude and a place of being merciful. And knowing that you can return to Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim at any point. You see, these are your foundations for building your life, your best life. Step 4. Allah says in Ayah 4, Malik Yawmiddin, He is the Master of the Day of Judgment. Right? Allah here now is reminding you about the future, what's going to happen. There is going to be a day of judgment, a day of recompense. We're going to have to account for what we've done. So what lesson we can take from this is, yes, be present. In the self-development world, we're constantly talking about being present. But being present is not enough, my sisters. We need to be present with a future focus. We need to take action today that will also benefit us in the hereafter. So when we're deciding on what action to take, think about your akhirah too. Think about what will benefit you in akhirah as well as today. That's really important, being present with a future focus. Step 5. Allah says, إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. It is you we worship and you we ask for help. We must recognize, sisters, that we need to ask Allah first and foremost. And here's the important thing, and then we must trust He will give it to us. You see, we ask, well, many times we don't ask. But actually, when we do ask, the other thing that we struggle with is trusting that Allah will give it to us, like really leaving it with Him. I was talking to my aunt the other day, who spends hours kind of making dua, but she has a lot of health issues. And I was saying to her that I think they're connected with, her psychology and how she defines herself as a warrior. And she said to me, you know what, I do great, but then I like to make dua for everyone. And as I'm starting to think about all of their problems, I start to get really worried and really stressed out. And so I said to her, but when you're making the dua, are you then trusting that Allah is going to take care of that problem for you? Are you then submitting that problem and letting it go? because that is what we need to do when we're asking for help. We then trust that Allah will give us what we ask for, and He will give us the help that we need. So the ultimate help is from Allah, but remember to trust Him. This is really, really key. Again, another mindset shift for you to be able to create your best life. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. Here, step 6, ask for Allah's guidance. It is so, so key. Because as the next ayah tells us, إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. The path of those whom you have bestowed favor, not of those who have earned your anger or of those who are astray. You see, there's always two choices, sisters. One that takes you towards Allah and one that takes you away from Allah. So we need Allah's guidance to help us make the right choice. And this is really important. So as we're planning our best life, we want to make the best choice, the one that takes us towards Allah. So I hope in sharing these gems that what we're taking from these is how we're going to now go ahead and plan our best life. We want to, one, be grateful. We want to connect what we do with Allah. We want to, sorry, someone else is saying it's faint. I'm really sorry, sisters. Some are hearing me loudly and some aren't. But I am talking quite loudly on my side. I wonder if you can put up your volume. So and it sounds a bit echoey. Let me see. Is this a bit better? I brought it quite close. Can I have a yes? Oh, yes. Okay, perfect. Alhamdulillah. All right. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Okay, before I move on, sisters, to explaining, to doing the workshop part of how now we create our best year ever, tell me, what did you take from these steps? So I want a takeaway from everyone that's in the room. We have 36 sisters. I want to take away from each of you. And I'll be reading them out before we continue. So just a quick message in the chat box. What did you take? And apologies if you didn't hear me well enough, but what did you take from the lessons of Surah Fatihah for creating your best life? Allah is the central focus of our every moment and every action. Yes, thank you. We always have a choice, always come from a place of gratitude. Oh, I'm trying to go up here and I'm pressing there. Trust Allah. The answer is at the beginning. So simple. Yeah, subhanAllah. We need to have Allah in our mind always. Yeah, it's a dua. Yes. What else, sisters? It's amazing. We're reading this surah over and over and over, and there's everything we need is packed within it. You know, we're wanting to live our best life, and everything that we need comes from it. You know, these are all the mindset shifts that will help you make the best choices and have the best outcome. Be thankful to Allah, be thankful, trust Allah, connect everything with and to Allah. Yes, sister, alhamdulillah. Be content and happy with Allah's decree, including, Sister Nasreen, His decree for you, like accepting who you are. You know, not that you don't, but I'm saying, can we be content with who we are? Before we look at the change that we want to make, can we be content with where we're at and who we are? And Sister Anissa says we must start everything with Allah's name and trust Him. Can you show step 4, sister? Yeah, okay, sure. Be present with a future focus. So here, when we're guiding us, He's reminding us about the day of judgment, the day when we'll have to account to Him. And so we have to have that in mind, sisters. We have to be present with a future focus. That means you take action today that will benefit you in the hereafter also. Forgive my little ones who are off to the park and making a big noise on their way out. We usually want to change other people rather than ourselves. Yeah, absolutely. And here, this is about changing our mindset before we even look at anything else. It's amazing. Okay, so thank you for sharing that. So now with that in mind, I'm going to go backwards. Okay, and now we'll start with looking at what we've taken. So one of the most amazing things in Ramadan is that we are trying to connect everything we do with Allah. Like we are trying to renew our intentions. We are trying to do everything for Allah's sake. So now is the workshop part, and I'd like you all to start taking notes. In terms of how you were able to connect with Allah in Ramadan, right? So we're taking the lessons from Ramadan first. What did you learn about that? What stopped you from connecting with Allah? So write it on your pen and paper, because now these reflections will be important for you to then learn from. Okay, so take a moment and write when you were trying to, I'm sure you started Ramadan with wanting to, purify your intention constantly. When were you able to do that? When did you struggle to do that? Was it when you were tired? Was it when you were stressed out? Or is it in those moments that you struggle? So I want you to look at how, where you connected and where that was and what that felt like and how amazing that was. But also, when did you forget to connect? So take a moment, sisters, and just reflect on that, please. Okay, sisters, I hope you've written something. If you'd like to share a lesson, that you've taken, then please share it in the chat box and I'll read a few out. It's always interesting to see what other people write. So I'll give you a moment if you want to share. And as you're looking at this lesson, now you can actually look at, well, if I want to now connect everything I do with Allah, and these are the times, like if in Ramadan, I found it easy in these times and I found it hard in these times, then what can we now do moving forward to make it easier for yourself? Do you have to remind yourself when you're feeling stressed out? Is there a way that you'll remind yourself, whether it's a post-it note or whatever, that actually I need to connect with Allah, even if I'm stressed? Because when we're stressed, we tend to go into, why is everything like this? Why is this happening? It shouldn't be happening. And immediately we disconnect. And then we feel worse. Remember, you were created for connection with Allah. So when you are connected to Allah, you're going to feel great. But there are times when you don't. Sister Anisa says, I didn't get as much ibadah done as I planned due to exhaustion and lack of sleep. Yeah, I mean, that's something we don't factor in. And we are human. We are going to be tired and we're going to be exhausted. And so it's not to beat ourselves up about, how much we did here. This is just to learn. But am I hearing from you that you feel less connected to Allah when you're exhausted or when you lack sleep, as some of the sisters are saying? Sister Roxana says she felt more connected to Allah when she was out in nature. And I'm sure a lot of you will resonate with that. So perhaps one of the things that you can do in creating your best life forward is making time for a walk, whether you, on your school pickup, you divert via the park and allow 5 more minutes, or you sit in the garden for 5 minutes or look outside. Make some time, whether you plan that after your salah or before your salah, just to clear your mind. But now looking at how connection with Allah is key to everything we do, I want you to draw some lessons for yourself. We only need to go into the past to draw lessons for moving forward. So when we're tired, what can you do to connect with Allah? Because if you don't, you're going to get even more stressed and more worried. I think, as most sisters are sharing, found that the middle of the Ramadan was a bit of a struggle, slipping away in ibadah. Right, and why was that, sister? Is it because you were tired? Which is often the case. Yeah, dhikr, making dhikr, right? And remembering Allah often is something that's really important. Great suggestion, sister. So if you're feeling stressed out, maybe a solution you create for yourself now is you take 5 minutes, whether you're looking out the window, you sit in the park and you make the dhikr of Allah. You remember Allah, subhanallah, alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar. And you connect with Allah, knowing that when you're stressed out, that's when you're least likely to connect, or when you're exhausted, or when you're tired, or you feel pressured. These are the times when you feel disconnected. But for your well-being, you need to reconnect. So draw a lesson for yourself here that's personal to you. Okay, so sister, when you were not able to read Quran, what could you do instead now? Replace the Quran with something that you can do that will connect you with Allah. Can you see it's this? When was I disconnected? And what can I now do? What can I now create for myself that connects me with Allah? One sister says, I struggled to connect when there were too much negative, complaining people around me. Okay, so what you could do, sister, in that time is when you're feeling that, okay, I'm going to tell you a secret. AirPods under hijab works really, really well. But do what you have to do to know that the key here isn't even connecting with Allah. The key here is this awareness that you have that you're disconnected, and the number one thing you need to do is reconnect. Okay? This is really important. Awareness of when you're disconnected, like when you easily get disconnected, and how to reconnect. It's really, really important. So make a rule for yourself, write it down. Like when I feel X, I know I need to reconnect. Maybe do this. Why? Okay? Moving on. Step 2, gratitude. Now, when we're often looking at our problems, here's another thing that really disconnects us from Allah and makes us feel really, really unhappy. When we are not able to feel gratitude to Allah, subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? When we're not, it's not that we don't want to, but when we're caught in our thinking that takes us away from being able to be gratitude. It's like, yeah, I know, but I'm not. I know, alhamdulillah, I'm okay, but I'm not. Alhamdulillah. The alhamdulillah that we talked about yesterday, where we say alhamdulillah, but it's this that I'm talking about, right? What's your but? And I'm sure if you look at your but, like, why am I struggling to feel gratitude? It's probably because you're not accepting what is, or you're not accepting who you are. So if you're struggling with gratitude, look at that. Are you struggling with what is? In which case, submit to Allah, accept it. And are you struggling with who you are? And right now, sisters, this is a moment that we can actually take to fully submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala while we're in Ramadan. Can we accept that? Can we accept who we are? Can we accept who we are? Can we accept what is? Because it is what as it's decreed. So if you really struggle with that, take a moment, make dua to Allah, who is our Rabb, the Rabbil Alameen, our Rabbil Alameen, right? Make dua to Allah to help you to accept what is in your life, because from that place you're able to change it in amazing ways. But you can't make changes until you accept where you're at. That is like trying to get to somewhere, and you put a destination in your sat nav, but you don't enter your destination, your location now. So your sat nav cannot take you to where you want to get to because you're not putting in your location. We've got to accept where we are now. Then we can move forward from there. Also, another thing that to have gratitude for is, even though I'm sure everyone in this room feels like Ramadan did not go as they had planned, they did not do as much as they had wanted, they did not stay, consistently strong throughout, they got tired, they fell asleep, they got agitated, you may have even shouted. If you feel that your Ramadan hasn't gone how you had hoped, now is a moment, sisters, to accept that it is as it was meant to be. Accept that you weren't able to be a superwoman and fast and wake up in the night and do all the extras and not be tired. Accept who you are, your humanness, and accept what it is. Let us not beat ourselves up. Let us accept what Allah decreed for us this Ramadan, what happened, how it played out. And let's look at just being grateful that we were blessed with a Ramadan, that we, continue to reach the end of Ramadan. Inshallah, we will make it to the end, and we pray that we were those who were forgiven all our past sins, and that we have grown closer to Allah. We have earned reward. We have sought Allah's pleasure. Let's be grateful for that. Forget everything else. Let it all go. Let's be grateful for the Ramadan we had. And who we are today. Step 3. Being merciful. Now we're covering this already, but be merciful to yourself. You are human. And if we made mistakes, in Ramadan, it's the best time to return to Allah and seek forgiveness. So if you are thinking about the mistakes you made this Ramadan, then return to Allah and take this moment to seek forgiveness. Because your Lord is a Rahman Rahim, and His mercy is what is going to save us in the hereafter, and it's what's going to save us now. So be merciful to yourself and return to Allah, and then let it go. Part of being merciful to ourselves is not beating ourselves up for who we're not. So part of it would be seeking forgiveness for the mistakes we made. But the other part will be accepting who we are, because we're often not happy with being human. We want to be superhuman. We want to be, always making the right choices. We want to have superhuman strength. So accepting who we are, and if we have made mistakes, seeking forgiveness. Step 4. Okay. Now, we've looked to the past now, sisters, in order for us to draw the lessons. Okay? Now we're going to take action today that will benefit us for this life and the hereafter. And that action we take, we want it to be pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We want it to keep us on His path. So, I want us now to do a bit of reflection on the different parts of our lives and the lessons we can draw from the past, and then create an action plan from there. So I'm going to give you an example, and this is the part you start writing. Now, this session is going to be longer than half an hour, and I should have said that so you could plan for it, but I hope that you're able to stay on. But we're not going to be too much longer. I think about 15 to 20 minutes. Okay, so let's stop beating ourselves up. Let's be grateful for the Ramadan we have. And now let's be present with a future focus. We've left the past behind. Okay? In terms of your ibadah, sisters, let's talk about Salah, for example. Okay? You may have come to Ramadan where you were struggling to pray your salah on time, or you were struggling to even pray, or you were struggling to pray extra and doing your sunnah nawafil prayers, or you were struggling to wake up for tahajjud. Only you know where you came into Ramadan. So I want you to take a note of where you came into Ramadan. Okay, so if, for example, you're struggling to pray, then the next step would have been to start praying consistently. If you are struggling to pray on time, your next step will be to pray on time. If you are struggling to pray, beyond your farad, but you wanted to start praying your sunnah prayers, then your next step would have been that. So where did you come in this Ramadan? And where did you want to get to? So just make a note for yourself. Everyone done? Now again, take one moment. Let's draw the lessons from there. Wherever you were, I want you to take a moment to reflect. What stopped you from achieving that goal or made it difficult to achieve that goal as much as you wanted? Because I'm sure no one did it perfectly, right? Or maybe you were able to do that and you can look at the next goal. So if you were able to achieve your goal, your salah goal, then what would be the next step for you? Write that down. My goal for me was to, like I'll share so that I don't know if that helps, but my goal this year was to be able to pray tahajjud every day. Did I manage it? Most days. But what I learned about myself, if I reflect on that, was I left it to the last minute until I thought, oh, I'm not going to have time. Like not every day, but when I'm really tired, I'd leave it to the last minute and then think, oh, I'm not going to have time to pray and prepare iftar at suhoor. So that would be like the thing that finally pushes me out of bed, right? Like, oh, I'm running out of time. So I need to draw a lesson on that for myself. Like, but there are lessons I can learn from that and be honest with myself and then create, a plan moving forward so that moving forward, I can be consistent with it because Ramadan was a training ground. You practiced, you want to look at why you struggled, and you want to look at why, what made it easy and do more of what made it easy and take steps to overcome the struggle. Is this making sense, sisters? It means you've got to be honest with yourself. Like, why did you struggle? What thoughts were going through your mind with your goal? Please can a few of you type yes if this is making sense. You know what you're doing and you're able to do it. Yeah. Like if we don't take this time to reflect, we're going to go back to how we used to be. Alhamdulillah, lockdown helped you to pray, sister, on time. Okay, so what was your next goal then for Ramadan? Did you have the goal to pray on time still? Did you have the goal to do more? And with that extra goal, did you struggle? Okay, so you wanted to do more. All right, now assess. Was it easy for you to do more? What stopped you from doing more? What helped you to do more? These are really important notes for you to be aware of. Mariam said self-control. Okay, so you wanted to, with Ramadan, you wanted self-control. In what way, sis? Or is self-control what helped you? Okay, Sister Leila says your goal was to develop khushu'. Okay, so what made it easy for you on the days you did develop khushu' and what made it difficult? Same, Sister Anisa. What helped you? What days were you disciplined and what days did you struggle to be disciplined? And what impact did that have? How can you now deal with that impact? Because if we're not aware of the lessons, how are we going to be consistent moving forward? Things won't change because we won't take the lessons to move forward. Roxnara says the goal was to do less so I could be more present. And did that work? So did you manage to achieve that goal? And when you did less, did that mean automatically you were present? And what made you struggle? Yeah, so the days I overloaded my plate with too many things, I struggled. Now, this is really important because now you can see the impact that if I take on too much, what will give is my salah and my khushu' and my connection with Allah. These are really important lessons that each individual will take their own lessons here. Okay, so when things were going on in your life, you struggled to switch off. Now, this is really important, right? And for that, sister, I would say go back again to look at the start of this video when we were talking about, well, can you be grateful even with those things going on in your life? Can you accept them? Can you draw lessons from the past and then just move on in the forward, moving forward now? So make those mindset shifts and see if that helps you. Now, these are great, sisters. So, okay, so Salah is done. Now let's talk about our journey with the Quran, because that's a big one in Ramadan, right? What was your Ramadan goal? Write it down on your paper. And did you achieve it? If yes, what made it easy? And no, some days you didn't. Why? Important to know why there's no failure, there's only learning. So we've got to learn from the days that we struggled. This learning is key to your personal development. Okay, so share with me, for some of you sisters, what lessons have you taken from your Ramadan goals and your Ramadan goal struggles, please? Can a few of you share your lessons? Okay, so Sister Layla, did you achieve your goal? What made it easy for you to achieve your goal, or what made it difficult? This is the important part we have to look at for you. Why did you not achieve it? You have to do some inner reflection for that. Why did you not achieve it? You don't have to share it here, but it's important that you reflect on it. Okay, so Sister Anissa, was that your goal, and did you manage it? And when you didn't, why did you not manage it? Because I'm sure whatever our goal was, perhaps we didn't manage it every day. But there were days we struggled. Alhamdulillah, you managed it. Great. So moving forward, do you want to increase? How will you maintain that? What will you take from Ramadan in order to keep prioritizing Salah and reciting Quran in your life? How can you move forward? Anyone else want to share their Ramadan, their Quran goal before I move on? So you read a little every day. Okay. Were there days you struggled? And if you did, what made it hard for you to struggle? What was it that maybe you prioritized instead? Or, someone, phoned and you took the phone call? What is it that you can learn from your journey with the Quran this Ramadan? This is what we want to take here. So for each of you, take a lesson, please. Okay, so Layla, you should have broken your goals into smaller pieces. Great. So moving forward, what you might want to do is set yourself like a weekly goal, but incrementally grow that each year. Each week throughout the year, so that it's always smaller goals, and that might work best for you. Because here, what you're finding, sisters, is what works for you when you're trying to improve yourself and what doesn't. Okay. Sister Anisa, being consistent and worshipping Allah. Keep being consistent. Right. Okay. But if you just say that, then that can be defined in many different ways. So set yourself what you think is a reasonable goal to be consistent. Sister Sana says, I think I struggled with my goals the days I didn't connect everything to Allah. Now that is amazing. So what can you do in the morning to connect with everything to Allah? You know, like how we make intention, you know, for Ramadan, that we're making intention that we're going to fast the whole month of Ramadan. You know, as we're reading our morning adhkar, that's a great way to start, because you are, you know, reminding yourself of your pledge to Allah, and you're reminding yourself of, you know, the importance of connecting with Allah. But you may also want to take a moment to think through your day and what you're going to do, and make an intention ahead of time that, you know, I'm going to drop off the kids to school, I'm going to come back and cook, I'm going to go shopping, and I'm doing all of that, Allah, because I'm doing it for your pleasure. So you could start in a good way as you mean to continue, and that would help. And then try and remember Allah as you're taking each step. And if you forget, then as soon as you remember, come back to Allah. And that may help you now to understand why maybe you struggle with achieving your goals. You know, this is the sort of reflection that's going to really, really help. Because the problem isn't that we can't set goals. We're great at setting goals, right? The problem is we don't take time to see why we didn't achieve our goals. Were they unrealistic? Most of the time you'll find that they were, you know, or were you expecting that every day would be the same? Again, that makes it unrealistic. Or, you know, was it because you wasn't connected to Allah, or you let your circumstances or, you know, what's going on around you affect you? So this is really important, because then if you can take these lessons, then you'll be able to continue the goals you had for Ramadan beyond Ramadan, because we don't want those goals to stop. You know, we want to continue after Ramadan. Yeah, I think if you do too much, you get burnt out and give them up. Absolutely. That was mine too. Little and often, and not too much, but that I could be consistent with. That's definitely a big shift that's happened with me in the last few years, because I used to have those really long checklists that would make me feel awful about myself because I could hardly ever check them off. So, alhamdulillah, right? But it's good. It's good to know what works for you. This is what we're doing here. We're working out what makes you successful at your goals and what makes it difficult. Okay, next. Now, I'm going to talk about 2 more areas, but then you can continue to do reflections on the other things that you want to achieve in your life. Okay, one is about food and your desire to eat. Now, one of my reflections in Ramadan is it's amazing how I become more conscious of drinking than eating, right? And I also become really conscious of making sure that I'm eating a balanced diet. So I'll make sure I break my fast with fruit, and then I'll have a salad. And then if I wanted something else, I would then have it. So I was being really strict, or I'd have a salad or a soup. That was me. And what my lesson was, wow, look at that. Actually, that's a really good way to eat. Why don't you eat like that out of Ramadan? So that's my reflection point. So I was really good with what I ate most of the time. And when I wasn't, I have to ask myself, why did I not? You know, what was it going on in my mind that I let those, on the days I let it slip? What was going on for me? So it's really important you do that reflection, because I'm sure most of you have goals about how you want to achieve your fitness level, and, you know, what size you want to be, and what, you know, how you want your health to improve. So looking at what we learned from Ramadan about our relationship with food, our struggle with food, this is really important. So take a moment, sisters, to reflect. What did you learn? Very interesting, Roxanara. Yes, when I'm tired, I don't make great food choices. Yeah, I was doing that. Or if I left it to the last minute, I'd just eat whatever was there. So what I started doing was preparing my salad before I prepared everyone else's iftar. so that it was always there. And I had a big plate of salad in front of me, so I wouldn't be looking at the cakes that everyone was eating around me. Yes, there's lessons to be drawn here. And that's one step I took to counteract that. Also, it's interesting to see how our body tries to fulfill the need for sugar, to raise our sugar level. The date is there. Oh, interesting. You didn't really need caffeine after all. That's amazing, you see. That's a real lesson to learn. Actually, do we need anything except Allah? Ramadan goes to show us that. Whether we think we need, caffeine in the morning, or we feel that we need to eat at lunch, or we couldn't. Yes, you can live without rice. Yes, Roxana, I know that was a great lesson. But these are important lessons because now it unchains you from the beliefs that you had that you needed these things in order to now make good choices. But we've got to see where we're at to be able to make those good choices. Okay, so really interesting, Simon. I started off with soups and salads, but as the tiredness set in, and also people shared iftar treats, the unhealthy food crept in. Yeah, that was really difficult when people sent iftar. Yeah, and also for me as well, cake. I did want to go have a bit of cake. Yes, had to make cakes every day, so it was really hard. I got my daughter to fry the samosas. She was like, "I'm not eating them. You fry them," and she was happily doing it. But she is 16. But yeah, so it's really interesting, right? So even if people are sending you food, maybe also prepare your own food as a way to be able to be consistent with whatever goal you have. Oh, great lesson, Sister Humera. We don't have to cook a lot. Little is enough. Look at that. Watermelon and dates, sunnah foods. Amazing lesson. Isn't that true? How little do we eat in Ramadan? It's amazing. But the more that we eat, the more we will enlarge in our stomach. So do we want to do that? Do we want to go back to our old portion size? Or now moving forward, we can take that lesson and actually not eat so much. Great lessons. And reducing your portion size is going to have a major impact on your health. Okay, so we've done food. Spread out the treats so we don't end up binge eating. Yeah, that was a great one. I put mine till the right at the end until I'd eaten everything. And then if I then still wanted something, I'd have a bite. That was what I did. You stayed away, Sunisa, from fried food altogether. So no samosas, no pakoras. Well done, you. What lesson did you learn there? Was it that actually you can say no? Because I learned that in myself this Ramadan. Alhamdulillah, look at that. I can say no. That is huge learning. That's so empowering. Okay, last point, sleep. Another huge desire that we have, that we struggle with. What did you learn about your need and desire and functionality with sleep? What did you learn? Take a moment to reflect. Oh, you learned about fried food, that we don't need fried food to survive. And we don't need rice. What did you learn about sleep? Okay. Okay, you can survive with less sleep and go to work. But if you do that for too long, I'm sure, sister, you notice that actually eventually you do get burnt out and exhausted. So perhaps for me, it's realizing I can, making up at the weekend. Like I can manage with less sleep, but at some point it catches up, and that's really important because sometimes, we go to extremes. 4 hours sleep is enough energy for the day. I usually sleep a lot. Wow. And you managed with 4 hours? Did you not have to then sleep again, or did you not feel exhausted, sister? Didn't get as much sleep, but it does catch up. Yeah, that's what I noticed too. Like, okay, I can manage with less sleep, but eventually I do need to catch up. I was thinking actually even about Fajr. Look how when we have our menses and we are able to have that week where we won't have to wake up and Allah gives us the rest there to catch up. It's amazing. I used to sleep when you got home. Okay. So you see, realizing that perhaps then, okay, I can wake up early, I can probably stay up after Fajr, I can make the most of that time, but I will need to make a pocket to rest in a day. And taking a nap is a sunnah, so it's great. And definitely when you sleep less, you're more productive, right? For me, I found I had to wake up in the night to have that quiet time with Allah where I could completely just, have that one-to-one switch off and not have the kids jumping all over my back. So I really enjoyed that, which meant I had to sleep less, and my sleep was broken, but I've really found that I do well with that. I'm fine with that. So that was a great lesson for me. You need to sleep to worship. Yeah, I slept so little that did you fall asleep in Salasis? One year I kept falling asleep, falling asleep every time I went into sujood. Yeah, we definitely need to sleep. Like the aim isn't to not eat at all or not to be not to sleep at all, but the aim is to find balance. Now we've all been to an extreme, but as we're coming out of Ramadan, what we don't want to do is go to the other extreme. What we want to do is find the middle ground. The other extreme is probably where we were before Ramadan. Through Ramadan, you reach the other extreme, and you find that you can manage and you can do it and you can eat less and you can make healthy choices. And so you take the lessons from being on both sides of the extreme, and then you find your middle ground. Roxana says, I realize sleep is just as important as exercise and good health. Yeah, so I planned on a nap in the afternoon. And did you manage that? And how did that work for you? Yeah, we have to get a sufficient amount, but not enough. Fell down in Salah. Oh, subhanAllah, may Allah really, pray that you didn't hurt yourself, sis. Okay, so it helped you to nap with your toddler. And that's great. Like if you need to stay up in the night, then you have to make time to have that rest and catch up in a day. Reminds me of being a new mum with less sleep. Yeah, like, alhamdulillah, look how we can survive then. Okay, great. So I've covered the main areas, sisters, right? Now, mashallah, if you can survive with little sleep, my biggest struggle in Ramadan was tiredness. I found it difficult to function at work. Alhamdulillah for the weekend. Alhamdulillah. And so now you've been at one extreme, sister. So how can you find your middle ground? Like sometimes we think we need too much sleep. Now we know we don't need that much, but we definitely need more than we've had in Ramadan. So how do you find your middle ground? So sisters, last question for all of you. Look down your list and make a note of the different areas: Salah, Quran, food and drink, and also the last one, sleep. I want you now to write down, sisters, where is the middle ground for each one. I'm going to give you a couple of minutes and not talk while you do that. Sister Yasmin, Assalamu alaikum. I wonder if that's the reason that you sleep well in Ramadan as opposed to out, is when you're more connected to Allah. So that might be a lesson for you to look at. Are you more connected to Allah in Ramadan in a different way that helps you to sleep? So that's what you want to look at there, and that reflection will help, inshallah. So Anisa, Sister Anisa, okay, so question is, where is your middle ground? Before Ramadan, you were probably at one extreme. In Ramadan, you were at the other. Where is the middle ground with Salah? Where is the middle ground with Quran? Where is your middle ground with your food choices and your drink? And where is the middle ground with your sleep? So make a note. I said last question, but I thought of one more that I want to do to help you guys before we come off. Thank you for staying with me, sisters. I hope that this is helpful. We never take time for this reflection. So you're looking for your middle ground, right? Like what works for you? What's going to help you? Allah loves the small deeds that are done consistently. Hence, we look for the middle ground. With those, we can be consistent. Okay. So, Sister Yasmin, just in response to your question, it's more about being connected with Allah. It's being more connecting with Allah, but also with His mercy. So here's a question then, Sister Yasmin. Can you find Allah's mercy out of Ramadan? And maybe the other thing that my experience that we do with sleep is if we're thinking about all our problems, then we're never going to fall asleep because our mind is active. We've got to switch off our mind. I say to my kids, like, imagine a blank piece of paper, switch off your mind. And in Ramadan, often we kind of put everything else on hold and we don't worry about fixing all our problems because we're focusing on just worshipping Allah in the best way we can. And if that's what you're doing, you might find that that's the reason you're able to sleep better. So it's food for thought there. Okay, so I hope you found your middle ground. Now looking at your list, last question, I promise. I want you to now create a small and consistent goal for yourself that you aim to have like a rolling contract, right? A rolling 30-day contract like you do with mobile phones. So every 30 days, you aim for the goal for 30 days. And then at the end of that 30 days, you aim to do it again. And at the end of 30 days, until it just becomes a habit. What habits can you form now, looking at your middle ground? What habits can you form now for the next 30 days on a rolling contract? So now create some habits that are going to be beneficial, consistent, and that are going to benefit you in this life and the next. Remember, be present with future focus. Now, ladies, make your goals. And put it on your paper so you've got it, because you will lose the chat here. Okay, so trying to be consistent, make it more specific than that. Because if we say we try to be, then that's not concrete, and there are days we'll think, well, it didn't happen. Whereas when you make it a goal, like we did in Ramadan, like a day must not go by until I've at least read a page of the Quran, then you will make sure that that's a priority and it will happen. Even if you want to do more dhikr, then at least give yourself like an allowance, like 5 minutes a day. You will do 5 minutes a day. So be specific now, sisters. How can you be more consistent with sleep? Maybe it's not about being consistent with sleep. Maybe the lesson to be drawn from sleep is actually, do I need as much sleep as I'm having? Could I actually get up in the night more? Or could I spend, could I stay up after Fajr and, do the things I never have time to do? It's more like that, like taking your lessons and seeing how you can manage sleep in a way that's going to benefit you better in this life and the next. Okay, so Amina, reading Quran, set yourself a goal so that it happens, even if it's an ayah or half a page or a page. Okay, make time for exercise. Then really, if that's what you want to do, then set yourself an amount, and perhaps either every day or the days of the week you will do it, and which slot will you find it in. Because if you have planned it like that, then it will happen, inshallah. Not wasting time on TV and phone. Yeah, that was a huge lesson, you know. Yeah, limiting time on social media, great. Now limiting, maybe the goal there is, do you allow yourself some time? Because that's an extreme to not go on it at all, as probably most of us didn't even touch the TV in Ramadan. But where would be the middle ground? Like, could you have, you know, days where you allow yourself a film day or whatever, and then the rest of the day, the days where you allow yourself, you know, time on social media, but you set yourself a limit. So set those limits on yourself. Sister Nazreen, yeah, have one meal like iftar. Yeah. Now if you do, that has to be a very balanced meal. But then even that, perhaps you might have a suhoor. But even, sister, your body has rights on you. So even the Prophet ﷺ didn't fast every day. So we do have to be balanced, which is what I'm saying. Find the balance so we don't go to the extremes. And then we can be consistent. Need to lose the lockdown tummy. Yep, I'm with you, sis. Fast Monday, Thursday. That is a good balance. Yeah, alhamdulillah. Okay. I love all the interactions, sisters. Great. Now share with me one last thing, and this is not for your reflection, but just for this. What's been beneficial for you from doing this exercise? How have you found doing this exercise so beneficial? If you share that in the chat box, then we'll just reflect on everyone's takeaways. Because that's always great. And as you share, someone else gets not just one takeaway, they take a few more. So if everyone can share, what was beneficial for you doing this exercise? 30 of you stayed on with me for an hour and 15 minutes. I'm very grateful, alhamdulillah. It must have been beneficial for you in what way? Okay, we always make intentions and plan for Ramadan, but we never do it for after Ramadan. Yeah. Amina, realize what is important. Sana, got an insight into my life. Absolutely. What insight, if you want to share, sis, do share. Got us thinking about what we're doing right. Yeah. That's gratitude, alhamdulillah. Making goals for after Ramadan. Yeah, so that we don't just stop everything that we've done, the great work we've done, the great steps we've improved on. You've made a goal to carry on after Ramadan. Yeah, do a 30-day contract, sis. It works great. Makes sense, being aware. Otherwise, I would have just gone ahead on autopilot, and your autopilot would have taken you back to your default, which is pre-Ramadan. That's what happens to most of us every year. You've never evaluated your goals like this, alhamdulillah. Remind ourselves what we can do with less eating, cooking, and social media. Yeah. We need to take those lessons. They were there for us to learn from, alhamdulillah. Improve on the lessons learned. Do more of what went well. Plan for next Ramadan, inshallah. Yeah, do more of what went well. I love that. Thank you. Sister says, never evaluated goals like this yet. Farah, it's a practical way of harvesting the seeds we sowed in Ramadan and tending to our gardens. Beautiful, Farah. Very, very poetic. But it absolutely is, that summed it up right there. I don't know what else to say. You smashed it. Alhamdulillah. Being merciful to ourselves is which I struggle with. Yeah. And so you need to look at that and look at why. That's really important. Like, if that's what's holding you back, then you need to look at that, sis. Looking at why we fell down in certain areas rather than just being frustrated with ourselves. Yeah, an insight into our habits and our ways. Yeah. Like for me, for example, I was doing really well saying no to most unhealthy foods. And then, there was an incident where one of my sons, he became really seriously ill. And I found that the week after, as I was kind of just recovering from that shock, led me to start kind of relaxing, feeling a bit sorry for myself and thinking, oh, it's okay, I deserve the cake that I had said no to for months. And it was really an insight into me and my habits and how I'm doing well until I get into victim mode, and then, then things slip. So my lesson was, you get yourself out of victim mode quick time. For me, that's being grateful. So yeah, we've got to really look at ourselves and learn from Ramadan, not beat ourselves up. In the Quran, Allah goes to the past only for us to draw lessons on, not to beat ourselves up with. So in the same way, we look at Ramadan, we draw the lessons, and we make goals moving forward so that we continue to be consistent with the seeds that we have grown, and we continue to grow. Why should we only grow in Ramadan? We might not take ourselves to such extremes, out of Ramadan, but the growth, it'd be beautiful if we continue to keep growing and being consistent and really embedding these habits so that actually they become your lifestyle. They just become your way you live. Okay, so that's the end. That's all I wanted to cover. We could talk lots more. I love reading all your messages, but I think I better let you all go. I'm just relaxed as my husband took all the kids to the park, so I'm chilling here. But it's been really lovely, sisters, to have you here and have you stay on for so long. I'm going to end it and put the recording up. So if you wanted to go back and do the reflection exercises with more time, then you can. Wayaki, sister. And we'll leave it there, inshallah. And if you find that there are things that you're finding that you're struggling with, that, oh, okay, I'm struggling with being merciful to myself, or I'm struggling in certain areas through the reflections, then reach out, inshallah, and we will help out at Sister Seeking Salam. Jazakumullah khair, sisters, for joining me. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdik ashhadu la ilaha illa ant astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Take care, my sisters. I love you and leave you. Assalamu alaikum.